Spike growth! The most requested video ever. People even asked me when I first started this channel, but I kept putting it to the side. Welcome to Pack Tactics. It's time to finally cover it. Yay! Spike growth, concentration, second level spell, action, 150 foot range, 10-minute duration. The ground in a 20-foot radius centered on a point within range turns into spikes. The area becomes difficult terrain for the duration. When a creature moves into or within the area, it takes 2d4 piercing damage for every 5 feet it travels. The transformation of the ground is camouflaged to look natural. Any creature that can't see the area at the time of the spell is cast must make a perception check against your spell save DC to recognize the terrain as hazardous before entering it. So spike growth is 8x8 centered on a point within range. It does 5 average damage every 5 feet traveled with no save. It's difficult terrain. You move at half speed in difficult terrain. Moving 1 foot in difficult terrain costs 2 foot of speed. So it takes 80 feet of movement to move through spike growth in total. If someone manages to move through the 8 squares of spike growth, they take 40 average damage with a second level spell. That's incredible. At low levels, when you get this, tons of creatures just die moving through it alone. And it stays potent at higher levels as well. Sometimes putting down spike growth determines the whole fight. Lilith sent me this picture like a year ago. Orcs were invading a dwarven stronghold. They oiled the carts using fine familiars and put down spike growth. By the way, she came up with Ghostlands build. That build is incredible combined with spike growth. Anyways, the orcs would either do the dumb thing by going through the spikes or climb the oiled carts. If they got close to the other side somehow alive, the party has a doorway perfect for dodge action. They won the fight in 1 move, no save. Lilith said, "We ran to the scene. The dwarf boys were all useless. They stood there and watched and clapped." Thank you, Lilith, for sharing this story. Now, there's tons of combos you can do with this spell, and of course, it gets even more complex with a team utilizing it to its full potential. 2 simple combinations can change the spell dramatically to something crazy strong. As a druid, you can put down spike growth as an action, and then if you have the telekinetic feat, you can bonus action shove a creature 5 feet away from you from there. Not only do they take the 2d4 damage, but you're also making them travel further to get to you and your party. Remember, they're in difficult terrain. 1 square is 10 feet. Then maybe on your next round, you can Thorn Whip to potentially pull a creature 10 feet closer to you, then combo that with Telekinetic to bonus action shove the creature away again. If you pull off this combo with, let's say, a level 5 druid, I expect you to do like 17.25 average damage. Plus the creature traveling on his turn, so that's an additional 5 or 10 or whatever. I don't know. I think it's safe to assume 10, so that's 27.25 average that whole round to that single enemy. But it's usually even higher than that because you're casting this to control multiple creatures, not just one creature. And your team is hopefully comboing off you in their own ways. So it wouldn't surprise me that your average damage is in the 60s that whole round. I have to point out the obvious, in case I get these comments by the way. I'm not talking about DPR. The average damage changes dramatically depending on the context of the fight. Well, like everything, but you know what I mean. I'm trying to sell to you that this is a good spell. Speaking of selling, what if I told you can experience spike growth in real life? This video is sponsored by Only Crits, where you can get some fancy D4 dice to set up the perfect spike growth trap for your players. Not only do they make the best D4 traps in all kinds of materials, colors, and shinies, but they also come in bags and containers with more dice, perfect for a tabletop adventure. Look at this, honey dice. They used bee magic to make a set of dice out of it. Awesome! But Kobold, how did they do this? Well, that's super secret magic they keep to themselves because they're optimal druids, so obviously they know how to set up the perfect real-life spike growth. Gator, we might get in trouble though. I made a claim and I bet you someone is going to point and cry, "White Room!" We need several demonstrations. Jump into it. Yeah! Ow! Ow! Oh! Ah! Kobold, I can't walk anymore. Help me! See, it looked like it worked. I highly recommend you check them out, and if you do, please press the link in the description. That helps me too. Onlycrits.com/packtactics. And if you like what you see, get some dice yourself. Use the coupon code PACKTACTICS, all in one word, for 12% discounts. Back to the video. Some enemies will counter spike growth with just using ranged attacks instead. This can still benefit your team. The reason is if the enemies are in it, you can still take cover or fall prone. Ranged attacks against you are made with disadvantage if you're prone. Once it's your turn, stand up, cast your cantrip or spell, and fall prone again. If they're just standing there attacking, you're still controlling their movements. They don't want to move out of the spell. If you look at all the creatures in the books, you'll find that a large number of them don't have ranged attacks. And for those that do, you'll notice their ranged attacks are weaker than their melee attacks. You make them even weaker by taking cover or giving them disadvantage to their attacks somehow, so dropping that concentration might be a bad move. You would have to judge that yourself. Now, keep in mind, this spell does piercing damage. It doesn't do magical piercing, so Raging Barbarians will take half damage from it, so you shouldn't be afraid to cast it on them. They generally don't care. They love it, in fact. Battle Master archers can try to knock creatures prone in the spike growth, so the enemies have to spend 15 foot just to get up from prone. Like, there's even combinations from the marshals. I've never heard anyone on the internet talk bad about spike growth. Everyone loves this spell. Warlocks are the masters of pushing and pulling due to repelling blasts and Grasp of Hadar. Repelling pushes the creature 10 feet, while Hadar pulls the creature 10 feet close to you. This combination makes it a lot easier to keep the creatures consistently in the spike growth, and it stacks up to a lot of damage. If you're playing with someone who's using spike growth a lot, I highly recommend you grab these invocations right after you get that agonizing blast. Or you can get the spell yourself. Doa Genie gets spike growth, and they're really the masters of this spell. Their Genie's Wrath does bludgeoning damage, and it's an attack, so that means you can combine this with the Crusher feat. It says, once per turn, when you hit a creature with an attack that deals bludgeoning damage, you can move it 5 feet to an unoccupied space, provided that the target is no more than one size larger than you. Combine this with Repelling or Hadar, that's 15 foot of forced movement once. And then the rest of the shots are 10 foot push or pull. And if you have telekinetic feats, that's a bonus action shove 5 feet. Like, there's a lot of potential here. Then of course, lastly, the Ghost Lance. I made a video about what that build is. I recommend you check it out. I said this before, that build is amazing with a spike growth caster. Alternatively, you can change that build into becoming a Doa Genie instead of undead. Now for the strongest combo. This is probably why you guys wanted to watch this video. Anyways, you and your team can combo this spell to a point where it turns into an automatic no-save shutdown. Spike growth is difficult terrain, remember that. Once you get 3rd level spells as a druid, you can get plant growth. It says a creature moving through the area must spend 4 feet of movement for every 1 foot it moves. Plant growth is not difficult terrain. It's not a concentration spell either. 100 foot radius is huge, by the way. Combine this with spike growth and it takes the creature's 30 feet speed just to move 5 foot forward, 1 square. But we're not done yet. We can do better. If there's a cleric in the middle of that combo, he can cast Spirit Guardians. It says an affected creature's speed is halved in the area. So now it takes 60 feet just to move 5 feet forward, 1 square. And it's all with no save. This isn't difficult terrain either, so it stacks. That half movement part in Spirit Guardian spell also doesn't need a save. From there, you could just try to push-pull the enemies back and forth until you win. Hopefully you have a Warlock player for that. Anyways, you get the point. Shoutouts to Daniel for helping me with the script. End of video. This is a fun spell to plan around, and if the whole party is on board, that's even more fun because of teamwork. Even other players that don't focus on forced movement in their builds can get a huge benefit out of this in one way or another. A simple Ray of Frost from a wizard is a big move. It reduces the creature's speed by 10 feet. We could probably go on and on. This is all I had to share. There's probably something I forgot. You can tell me in the comments. Anyways, 10 out of 10 spell. I recommend you buy some cool dice from Onlycrits. I also hope to earn your subscription. Thank you for watching. Bye bye!